So we are back on the Porsche Cayenne, and first up we're going to have a look at these wheels which I picked up. So these are some 20-inch alloys that come with some Pirelli tyres, and I believe these have come off a 2019 Porsche Cayenne, so quite a later model than my one. So hopefully these will fit. But yeah, let's now jack the car up and put them on and see how they look. So with the rear wheel now removed, I thought this would be a good opportunity to remove the wheel arch liner just by undoing some of these screws here you can see. And then we'll take it out and have a look what horrors are hiding behind this side. So yeah, as expected, there's rather a lot of mud that's accumulated behind the wheel arch liner over a number of years, with probably the biggest bit sitting on top of the heat shield of the exhaust here. So right, let's get the jet wash on this now and see what it looks like afterwards. So after a good jet wash, it's come out looking much cleaner with all the mud and crap washed off. There was a casualty though, namely this thing, the dust cover that's on the bottom of the air suspension, so I'm going to have to add that to the growing parts list on the car. So yeah, let's take a look at the other side now and see if it's a similar story. And yes, it is. As we can see here, there's also a ton of crap that has accumulated on here over the years, which I'll have some fun removing. So yeah, time to get the jet wash on this as well and clean this up. And a quick look at this side of the suspension also shows that the dust cover is also kaput. So yeah, let's give this a clean, stick the wheels on and see how they look. Right, so I finally got the wheels on, and they seem to fit quite nicely, so I'm quite pleased with that. It's not too bad. I did have one slight issue with the front tyre here, and there was a nail in there, which I probably should have left in because when I removed it, it has caused a puncture, so I'm going to need to get that repaired. But yeah, other than that, happy with the tyres so far. So it's time now to get back on the engine and see if we can get this thing started. Right, so first up we're going to have a look at the electrics in this thing, and if we lift up the passenger seat and take this cover off, it reveals a lot of the pre-fuses and the pyro fuse, as well as a relay. So yeah, we're going to need to check all those, make sure that that's all working correctly. And if we come over to the passenger side of the dash, we can see here a bunch more fuses for controlling the internal external functions on the car. And then coming over to the engine side, if we remove this cover on the scuttle panel, we can see more fuses and more relays. So these ones are responsible for things like the engine control and the fuel pumps, as well as things like the radiator fans. So yeah, more things there to check. And last but not least, we come around here to the driver's side and take this off. We reveal, yep, you guessed it, more fuses. So yeah, let's go and check these out and see if there's anything wrong. Right, so I ended up getting a new battery for this thing, which is this 950 amp hour battery, which replaces the original. And here I'm just now testing to make sure that all the pre-fuses are functioning. So this is the pyro fuse. We can see here we've got power going through it, which is good, as expected. Now we're just checking the other main fuses, just to make sure that they're all working, which they seem to be. So yeah, I'm just going to continue with this off camera and then come back when I found something. So all the fuses on the car have checked out fine, and doing a bit more research, a lot of people have indicated there are some problems with this wiring loom, which is running inside the passenger footwell. So what we're going to do is get my trusty snips, and yeah, we're going to open this up and see if we can find any wiring issues. Right, so with the sleeving removed, we can now see the infamous splices in this wiring loom, which, as I understand, causes a lot of electrical problems on these cars. So it looks like the wires have just been twisted together and then had some tape put on them. So let's open these up and see what's inside. Right, so if we take this one as an example, we can see this green corrosion that is on the wiring, which is obviously not a good sign. Clearly shows that these have not been sealed correctly and that there's moisture getting in. And it's not just that one. It appears to be a similar story on some of these other ones that you can see. So right, I'm going to have to clean these up now and resolder the ones that look like are bad and reseal them. Right, so I've just done all that off camera, and I've just put some heat shrink on these, so hopefully now these will prove to be a lot more reliable going forward. Right, so we're going to use my spark plug tester to try and see if we've got any ignition. So yeah, we'll take the coal pack out of cylinder number 1, get this in plugged in. So I couldn't find any other problems with the electrics, so let's see if we do actually get a spark. Right, so we're all connected up now, so let's turn the engine over and see if there's anything. Right, now we can see here we do have a spark, so clearly that's working. Right, so next up we're going to see if we've got any fuel going into the engine. So if I take the cover off the valve, we can see if there's any pressure in the fuel rail. So I wouldn't normally recommend this, but if I push down on the valve, yeah, then we can see we've got some fuel coming out. So I wouldn't normally recommend this, but I don't have a pressure gauge. But just to double check, let's now have a look at the fuel pumps at the back. Right, so the fuel pumps are located under the rear seat, and you can get to them by pulling on this handle, and the seat should pop up. So that's one side done, and plenty of mess there for me to clean up. So yeah, it looks like I need to pop up the other side as well. We come around here, same thing, pull the handle, up the seat pops, and now we should get access. Looks like someone's already cut the carpet, which helps. And you can see here the silver lids or covers which are concealing the fuel pumps. Now, in order to get the covers off, it looks like we need to remove these two brackets which are holding the rear seats down. So yeah, I'm going to need to go and do that next. Right, so I managed to get these two brackets removed, as you can see here, and this one just lifts up so we can move this out of the way. And in order to remove these, I had to use a special tool for these spline bolts. And I bought this socket set from Euro Car Parts for about £10, which has come in very useful, and contains the number 10 here, which we need to use to undo those bolts. Now, I think without this tool, basically would have been impossible. But now that we've got all the bolts undone, we can see under here, once we take the covers off, here are the rather dirty fuel pumps. So we have one on this side. If we come over here, then there's actually two on this car. So yeah, we're going to clean these up now and give them a test and see if they're working correctly. Right, so I got the multimeter plugged in to the connector that goes into the fuel pump. So yeah, we're going to start the engine now and see if we have any power. Right, we can see we've got about 9.5 volts. The battery's a bit low, but the main thing is there is power going to the fuel pump. If the battery was fully charged, I'm sure it would be closer to 12. Right, so I've got my DC power supply set up to 12 volts to see if we can hear anything if we give the pump some power. So just going to plug in the positive lead and listen. Yeah, you can see it's drawing about 5 amps there, and we can clearly hear the pumps are running, so looks like they should be good to go. So next up I want to do a compression test using my compression tester, but unfortunately it doesn't quite fit as the spark plugs have a 12mm thread and the tester only has 14, so I'm going to need to buy an adapter. Right, so some parts have arrived for my engine, which includes this crankshaft sensor, which apparently can cause some no start problems, and I've also ordered two camshaft sensors which correspond with the errors we were seeing with the code scanner. So yeah, we're going to get these fitted now, and the way you fit them is by removing the old ones from here and here at the back of the engine, and there's basically one screw holding them in, and then there's also a plug. So yeah, let's get on with removing this and see if we can get this fitted. Okay, so I managed to get one of the cam sensors out and you can see the state of it, so definitely looks like these are worth replacing, and you compare it to the new one, you can see it's night and day. So in order to get this out, I needed to use this H5 hex socket, and wasn't too bad. They were a bit stuck in, so I had to use a screwdriver, as you can see, just to sort of get behind it and prise it out. And you can also see the plug. So right, next up is to refit the new ones and then fit the crank sensor. Right, so in order to remove the crank sensor, you first need to remove this bolt, which wasn't too difficult. I used a T30, and the actual sensor is located in a really awkward place, kind of behind this engine mount, as you can see here. So here's a bit of a close-up, and you can see how it's kind of quite difficult to get access to. So yeah, what we're going to try and do now is pop this thing out and see if we can first wheel it free, and then you have to kind of twist it. It's a bit difficult to do with one hand while you're holding the camera, but we shall persevere. So yeah, it's quite a fiddly job, as you can imagine. Access is not the best. And eventually, a bit more fiddling, it should eventually almost pop out. Right, there we go, finally. So, as you can see, it's not in the best condition, so it's probably a good job we're changing it. So next up, we need to disconnect it from the electric. So first off, we need to remove the airbox, which is just a case of undoing these two clips and just lifting this cover and pipes off. Not forgetting to disconnect the MAF sensor. And you can see here the gloves are already doing their job and lasting about 2 seconds, as they usually do. Right, so once we lift that out, that should give us better access to get into the plug. So take out the air filter as well. Looks to be still in quite good condition. So yeah, it's a bit awkward to film this, but if you have a look right down here, you can see there, that's basically where it plugs in. So here's a bit of a better shot once I've got the torch in there. And as you can see now, I'm just pulling out the plug, and now we can attempt to try and feed this through behind the engine mount in order to get it out. So yeah, that's a better shot here, just so you get an idea of where it is. Right, so here we've got it out finally, and yeah, I just want to double check it first so we compare it to the new one. So here's the part I bought, which is a aftermarket one, not original, but hopefully it should do the job. And as we can see, they look pretty similar. So yeah, just checking the plugs, making sure that I've not bought the wrong one. So yeah, they look all good. And then the sensor itself looks pretty much identical, as you can see here. So yeah, let's go and fit this in now. Okay, so I got it plugged in here, back where the original one was. It sits on a little bracket, and then if we come down to the underside, the side of the engine, we can see that it's now installed. Right, so let's see if we can get this thing started. Here's the usual symphony of beeps when I power this thing on, and let's turn it over. Okay, that was a sign, but still hasn't started. Try again. Yes, sounds like the battery's getting a bit weak. Okay, just giving it some throttle, see if that will help. One thing I've noticed is when I'm turning it over, if we have a look here at the rev counter, we can see it's moving, so it looks like the new sensor is working. But yeah, this isn't sounding great really, and I'm starting to think we have some rather bigger problems with the engine. Right, so my adapter for the compression tester has finally turned up after a massive cock up with the delivery. So yeah, let's get this plugged in now and see what the compression we got in the first cylinder. So before we do that, we're just going to pull the relays for the fuel pumps, which are located here in the scuttle panel. So yeah, we'll just take those out and go from there. Right, so let's turn this thing over and see what kind of compression we're getting. Yeah, so that's not a good start really. So let's go and test the others and see what we're looking at. Right, cylinder number 1 we have about 120. Cylinder number 2, 0. Cylinder number 3, 160-ish, which is okay. Cylinder number 4, 0. Cylinder number 5, surprisingly, over 200. But cylinder number 6, 0. Engine very bad. That's it for this episode. Hopefully see you next time.